Okay, we're doing Facebook Live. We're going to have the girls introduce themselves, and then after they introduce themselves and who they're with, they're going to take questions.
I'm Tanya Sturgeon, case manager at the Women's Shelter. I apologize, the Purple Door.
Detective Matthews with Corpus Christi Police Department.
Shirley Esparza with the District Attorney's Office, Victim Assistance Coordinator.
Deborah Garcia, CCPD Victim Advocate.
Audrey Leal, CCPD Victim Advocate.
Cheryl Rodriguez, Children's Advocacy Center of the Coastal Bend, Family Advocate.
Rose Trevino with the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Victim Services Division, Regional Victim Services Coordinator.
Angela Luna, Victims Coordinator for Juvenile Probation.
Okay. We're going to take your questions. And I'm going to read some of the questions off that have been sent to us previously before we went live. So the first question is, I'm the victim of an aggravated assault. When I went to the DA's office, they gave me some forms. Do I have to fill them out?
The forms they probably gave you were the victim impact statement, which goes to with the defendant if he gets probation, or if he gets parole, it'll go to the TDCJ. And the other form that he received would have been the crime victim's compensation. And the person that sent it to you, probably here in Oasis County, would have been Rosa Maria Cervantes.
Who is eligible for protective orders?
Protective orders are eligible for people that are victims of domestic violence, not necessarily husband and wife, boyfriend and girlfriend, living situation, any domestic situation, roommates in college, and just roommates in general. Sexual assault victims are also eligible for protective orders. You can get an emergency protective order through the police department if the offender is arrested, and you can get a permanent 2-year protective order through the county attorney's office.
And legally.
And legal aid.
My family member was murdered 15 years ago. His killer was sentenced to 35 years in prison. I heard that he was coming up for parole soon. Is there anything that I can do to find out for sure and try to keep him in prison?
Certainly, you would want to be in contact with the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, Victim Services Division. That phone number is 1-800-848-4284, or you can call me regional here locally in Corpus Christi at 361-888-5698, extension 201. And what you can do is you can register for services, for notification services, and to speak with the Board of Pardons and Paroles if you are what we consider a statutory victim.
What is the difference between a protective order and a restraining order?
Okay, a protective order is more of what you want to get if you're a victim of domestic violence or sexual assault. It's jailable, so people can be arrested if they violate a protective order. Protective orders are done again mostly for domestic issues and sexual assaults. So they're the grade of arrest and what can be done with them in court is better and greater for you because the person can be prosecuted for that. The restraining orders are mostly for civil matters. We mostly tell people that are in the middle of a divorce that are trying to freeze assets and things in their homes so that the other party doesn't sell them. There can be things put in a restraining order that keeps the other party from coming close or any kind of contact with you, but those are more for civil matters, and those are through the JP courts. And you'd have to have an attorney to get a restraining order, and they're mostly misdemeanor Cs. They're not jailable. Protective orders are not through the JP's court, they're through the district courts, and those can be done and prosecuted through the DA's office, and they are free. You don't have to pay for a protective order.
I want to meet with the parole board to protest the release of the offender responsible for my victimization, but I'm afraid to see the offender. Is there any way that I can meet with the parole board without having to go see the offender in person?
Absolutely. There's this misconception when it comes to the review of an offender for their parole review hearing that the offender is going to be present. And actually, the participation of the victim in this process is completely confidential. The offender is never present, and they're never informed about the victim's participation in the process. In fact, other states may do it differently, and sometimes we see television shows that depict parole board hearings as a panel of judges. But in Texas, it's a very confidential, private, one-on-one meeting with the victims, with the lead voter from the parole office that's assigned. In addition, if a victim wants to talk to the parole board, but they're unable to travel to one of the 7 parole board offices throughout the state, they can opt to have a telephonic meeting.
How do I make a report and how do I file charges?
I guess I'll handle that one. You can make a report either by calling our telephone reporting unit. For some offenses, you do need to have a patrol officer respond to you. So you would call our non-emergency number, 886-2600, or 911 if it's an emergency. Sometimes when you call 886-2600 and ask to make a report over the telephone, you'll have to leave a message, and then our telephone reporting unit will get back to you within usually 24 hours. If it's an emergency, of course, call 911 and an officer will respond, and they'll determine if a crime has been committed at that time, and then take the necessary information for a report to be generated.
I was given a form called a victim impact statement after I was assaulted. The person who assaulted me was sent to prison. Do I still need to complete that form? And if so, who do I send it to?
Okay, well, the victim impact statement would have been provided by the District Attorney's Office Victim Assistance Coordinator. And you can still complete that victim impact statement if you want to. You're not required to, but it is your voice that will be heard by the parole board. So in the event that you do not wish to speak to the parole board when the offender is in the review process, your victim impact statement will explain to the Board of Pardons and Paroles the impact of the crime on you and your family. So it'll be your voice. So it is a good practice to go ahead and submit that if you wish. Those can be sent via email if you'd like to victim.s as in Sam, V as in Victor, C as in Cat, at tdcj.texas, spelled out texas.gov. You can also mail those to the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Victim Services Division at 8712 Shoal Creek Boulevard, Suite 265 in Austin, Texas, 78757.
This question we have is, do I need to have a case with CCPD in order to seek services?
No, you do not. If you want to seek victim services, you can always reach out to our office, or you can come in to the Family Violence Department here at the main police station. You can speak with any one of the victims advocates over there, and we can help you, whether it be for seeking counseling, with crime victims compensation, or giving you phone numbers or resources for legal aid, or for the county attorney's office, but you do not need to have a police report.
And the same thing at the DA's office.
And at the purple door also, you don't need to have a police report or anything like that in order to receive services with us.
Next question is, I'm a victim of domestic violence. I was granted a protective order against my ex-partner. My ex-partner, who was my assailant, was sent to the penitentiary. I heard that she is set to be released from prison pretty soon, but my protective order expired a year ago. What else can I do for my safety? Do I need to get another one? I know she is not going to leave me alone when she gets out.
She can ask for an extension, and also they can put the protective order on hold. Correct me if I'm mistaken, but I understand they can put him on hold, and when he gets out, it'll restart all over again. Am I correct, Russ?
Right. If the law says that if a protective order expires while an offender is incarcerated, that when they are released, that protective order is automatically extended. Of course, by automatically extended means that it can automatically be extended. The victim would have to go to the county attorney's office here in Nueces County and request that extension. Another thing that a victim can do in her case, for example, is to speak directly to the Board of Pardons and Paroles and ask that that offender not be allowed to come into the county or counties where they live or work. We call that a Z condition, and oftentimes if the victim requests that, the board will impose that condition, further enhancing their safety. But that is at the discretion of the Board of Pardons and Paroles as to whether or not they impose that condition.
Also on the protective orders, it's a little bit difficult to get a protective order against a juvenile. So in a juvenile case, it's a little bit different. You could definitely go to the county attorney's office, but it would be a hearing and so forth. But we have conditions on pre-court supervision, so we put the juvenile on conditions so there'll be no contact between the victim and offender at that time, which is kind of what a protective order would be doing for that juvenile. So if you're interested in a protective order against a juvenile, please contact me at juvenile probation and I'll help you out with that.
And what's your phone number?
That is 561-6019. I had to think about it.
I was assaulted by someone who I found out was on parole. I reported the assault to the police, but I have not heard anything from anybody. Who should I call?
You can call 886-2640. That is our criminal investigation division phone number. It's to the receptionist desk. They will find out whether or not your case has been assigned to a detective. If it has, she or he will then transfer you to the detective's direct phone number. If it hasn't been assigned, you will then talk to the detective that has the duty desk for that day, and they will walk you through the process on following through with prosecution regarding that crime that was committed against you.
And if they tell you the case has been sent over to the DA's office, normally you would call one of the victim assistance coordinators, and we can let you know whether it's being reviewed or it's being worked on to be taken to the grand jury.
One of the other things that they would want to do in addition to those is they would want to call the parole office where that offender is being supervised. Here in Corpus Christi, it's 888-5698, and request to speak to the parole officer for that particular offender. That parole officer is going to want to take the information down because it's certainly relevant to the conditions of that offender's parole.
And then also, if I could piggyback on that, I apologize. If that offense occurred on a school campus, you're definitely not going to get any information from the campus because of the FERPA laws. So just call probation, the probation office, and if you're listed as a victim on the police report, then you have those rights to be notified of what's going on with that juvenile, what's going on with that case.
Okay. Next question. Who qualifies for CBC?
Any innocent victim of a crime. That's assault, sexual assault, anything to do with bodily injury. It will not cover any property damages, but it will cover a person who's been assaulted, a person who's been a victim of an assault or a sexual assault, and even sometimes I've seen terroristic threats. You have to be an innocent party to a crime and be cooperative with the DA's office.
You have to also be cooperative with law enforcement, with that also with investigation. Crime victims compensation will cover counseling if they're, again, like Shirley said, if it's a harassment, terroristic type thing, if there's no physical harm, there's still emotional harm. So if that can be proven through a police report or things like that, then they also qualify for that. Some property is covered if some property is taken for evidence, say like in a sexual assault. If they have to take bedding, clothing, and they want to get that back or get money for those things that they have lost, they can also put that in a claim for crime victims compensation. Sometimes when it has to do with certain internet type stuff and social media things that we do mostly with children, phones and computers and things are taken also for evidence. Those can sometimes be recovered. And all those decisions are made by the Office of the Attorney General. Us locally have nothing to do with the money or if a claim is accepted. We fill a claim out for a victim. We send it to the Office of the Attorney General in Austin, and they make the final decision on everything that happens with a claim.
And to find out if you qualify as a crime victim, it's posted on Article 56.01 of the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure, and you can always Google that. And it has the definition, as they mentioned before, anybody who's suffered physical injury or harm as a result of the criminal conduct of another.
What else does crime victim compensation cover? Cover like burial expenses or anything else?
Crime victims also covers burial expenses up to $6,500. Again, it's going to be contingent upon if they qualify through investigation. It's gonna, most of the time they do qualify. Again, we don't determine that, but There has been very little incidents where it didn't. But again, most of them do qualify, and it covers burial and just anything that has to do with burial, which would be burial, funeral expenses, services. It's up to $6,500.
And the crime scene cleanup.
And crime scene cleanup, yeah.
It also covers travel,
Mhm.
reimbursement,
Travel,
if
Loss of wages.
lost wages to
Relocation.
attend hearings.
Relocation.
First month's rent deposit.
Okay,
and
relocation. No, no.
Things like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, you know, again, I do post-conviction services, so even further down the line, when a victim wants to travel to speak to the Board of Pardons and Parole, the Crime Victims Compensation Program will reimburse them for those lost wages at that time, and for their mileage if they have to stay in a hotel, just like they would for court cases that are, when they're happening, and they have to travel for that.
And in the court case situation, though, they would have to be subpoenaed, and that subpoena would have to be supplied to CVC, so it doesn't
It's not
cover
automatic.
everybody who gets on the plane, it's just
Right.
the ones that are subpoenaed for the court.
Right, good point.
And if they have any more questions, they can always call the district attorney's office and speak to Rosa Maria, and she'll make all the arrangements that's needed.
And then, of course, if they're comfortable with using the computer, you can always go to the website for the Office of the Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton being the Attorney General, and there is a Crime Victims Compensation tab on that website, and that has all the information also that we just kind of spewed out.
And that phone number for the Attorney General's office is 1-800-983-9933, if anyone needs that number.
I'm a crime victim. I completed a victim impact statement because I was told that this would ensure that I would receive notifications about this offender when they went to prison. I know that this offender went to prison, but after sentencing, I never received any other information. Why not?
Oh.
If you moved, or if you changed your number, if you have done that, then there's no way that we can notify you. But it's important to keep in touch with the Victim Assistance Coordinator in the DA's office so that we have your most updated information at all times. That's very important. Go ahead.
Yeah. If in Oasis County, I can tell you that if a victim impact statement was completed by the victim and turned in, those are forwarded to the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Victim Services Division for processing. And that, the information, a lot of times on the victim impact statement, that is their contact information changes. And that's true in all victim services. We see that a lot just due to the nature of criminal victimization. So it's very imperative, as Shirley pointed out, that contact information is always updated, not just with your personal contacts, but especially if you're trying to get information and notification services or any type of services, whether it be with the Office of the Attorney General or TDCJ or the DA's office, to update that contact information should you get a new phone number or a new address or your email address changes. That way you can continue to be notified and receive the information that you need.
That goes very well in the investigation, and also if you move in the middle of an investigation, if you move anytime during that where we need to contact you again, if a detective needs to contact you again, or if one of us advocates need to contact you to see if your services, if you were able to get the protective order and things that we referred you to, and there's a name, phone number change and an address change, we would also need that, so that way we can ensure that you receive your services and that you still know that you can, that way your detective will be able to contact you if they need to. It's important to always update information and anything, so that any one of us ladies here and other agencies in the area can be able to make sure that you get the services that you deserve.
With CCPD, if you need to update your phone number or your address, you can easily do that through the telephone reporting unit by calling the non-emergency number and just letting them know that you need to update your contact information. They can give you a call back and change that, so you don't need to come into the office or speak with your investigator or your victim's advocate. You can easily just do it over the phone.
Victim impact is a little bit different on the juvenile side. We normally don't do the formal victim impact paperwork unless we're being certified as an adult, and that's going to the post adjudication. But we do impact after disposition, which is the sentencing stage of the crime, where the victim does have the right to speak to the court and how they feel and stuff. So we do court impact, but the form of the victim impact is only if that juvenile is going to go to be certified as an adult.
I was victimized when I was a teenager. The offender was sentenced to prison, and from what I understand, they are still in prison. How can I be kept informed about this offender? And I have had some pretty bad emotional issues. I need help, but I do not have the money to pay for counseling. What kind of help is out there for someone like me?
I'll take the part about the notification. For you to be informed about the offender, you would want to register with TDCJ Victim Services for confidential notification system. I'm going to make a note that it is not the same as VineLink. VineLink is for county offenders who are in jail or for court cases that are pending. It will not give you information about offenders that are incarcerated in TDC except for limited. So you would want to call the 1-800 number, the hotline 1-800-848-4284, or again, you're welcome to call me if you're local or even if you're not. My number is 361-888-5698, extension 201, so that we can get you registered into our confidential system so that you can receive notifications by email, text, call out, or letter. And the other part of the question was about, it's happened a long time ago, what services are there?
CCPP does have a counselor on staff. She's with our office. You can call 361-886-2670. It's completely free. There's no set amount of sessions you can have. You just have to call. She works Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and she can work you into her schedule for counseling.
At the Purple Door, we also have groups that are available. Everything's free of charge. And then we also have individual counseling available to anybody who's ever been a victim of domestic violence or sexual assault.
And also, if a victim was victimized a long time ago and they were not aware that crime victims compensation was a right, they can still apply for crime victims compensation and just attach a statement to the application that they were not aware of that right, they were never informed about their right to receive compensation, so that it could possibly pay for other counseling or anything else that they might need that it covers. Of course, as Deborah mentioned earlier, that's contingent upon the approval of the Attorney General's Office Crime Victims Compensation Program.
Shara, I know that the Children's Advocacy Center does have a support group. You want to give them that information?
Yes, we do offer a teen support group for girls between the ages of 11 and 14. It is a 6-week program, so every 6 weeks it is a different group of young females. It is run by our in-house therapist, Michelle McLaughlin, and it is completely free. It's from every Thursday from 5:45 to 7:15. They provide dinner for the children that is luckily donated by the amazing community. And of course, they really go over a lot of self-esteem rebuilding, coping skills, and of course, they're able to use the support of each other to assist them through this time. We also do offer in-house counseling that is free for the public. You don't have to be a victim of child abuse or to have a police report like Deborah was saying in order to utilize our services. So if that's something you're interested in, you could always give us a call at 855-9058.
Also on that, on Shara's case, she does an amazing job with the CVC also for her young victims. And if they don't use it at that time, it definitely follows with them. So if they have a post-traumatic event later on in college or as an adult, they could always fall back on that CVC that was established at the Child Advocacy Center.
Crime victims compensation claims don't close, they just go inactive. So if at a later point the victim needs to, like Angela said, get those counseling services, because sometimes things don't happen until way down the line some years, they can just call up again with a victim case number and get that reactivated again, so that way they can get those funds that are afforded to them.
So the moms of all those younger victims that Shara and her team sees, it's important to get them into that program at that time.
I'm the victim of someone who is on parole. I was told that part of the parole conditions, my assailant would not be allowed to contact me. Recently, I received a call from that person. When I hear their voice, I immediately hung up on them, only to receive a text message a few minutes later. What can I do?
Since that offender had that condition that they were not supposed to have contact with the victim, that victim would contact the Corpus Christi District Parole Office again at that number that I provided, 888-5698, and ask to speak to the parole officer for that offender. And then they would give them a statement. They may be asked to come in and complete an affidavit, and they should save those texts as evidence of that contact. What typically will happen is that a violation report will be initiated, and a warrant may be, what's the word I'm looking for? Issued for that offender for violating the conditions of their parole. Now, whether or not, just depending on the situation, case-by-case situation, and what other violations they may have, or the extent of that contact, could result in a revocation of their parole privilege, and they may be sent back to the penitentiary to continue serving their sentence there. Again, that is just contingent upon them, the degree of the contact and the other violations they may have. And it doesn't always happen, but sometimes it can occur.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
You go. I know what you're gonna say. You're probably gonna say what I'm gonna say.
Maybe. Sometimes going to the parole board, or not the parole board, but the parole officer that established those conditions, sometimes they might refer you back to CCPD to generate a new report for that violation of parole. And we could do that as well. It's probably best to have an officer respond to your home. You can still call the non-emergency number 886-2600 so that they can see those text messages or any other type of documentation you might have supporting that contact and the violation. So a new report could be generated from that. We would then forward that to the parole officer for that person.
And besides the fact that it's a parole violation or a probation violation, you have to also not forget that any tampering with a witness or a victim in a crime is a felony, and that is a charge in itself and will be charged separately.
This is from Dan Schill. Could you discuss the lack of effort in closing tough theft and percent cases? I know a lot of residents who receive little to no feedback after a theft case. I'm not sure if it's a manpower issue or lack of effort in detection, or maybe my narrow scope on these types of cases, but I'd love to hear what is being done with hard theft cases.
I'm not quite sure what hard theft cases means.
I think he's referring to like cases that they don't get fingerprints on and they don't have a lot of evidence
difficult
prosecuting.
Okay, well, with theft cases, all cases will get assigned. Usually, all cases will get assigned to a detective. Not all cases will. It depends if there's something that we could follow up on. Once all of the avenues have been researched and investigated, if it cannot be filed, if it cannot be proven enough to be filed with the Nueces County District Attorney's Office, it can just be closed out. It can be closed out as insufficient evidence or inactive, or sometimes victim refused to prosecute. There's a number of ways a case can be closed out if it doesn't make it to the Nueces County District Attorney's Office. Sometimes when we even process a scene and we might get prints, sometimes those prints may not be viable prints. They may not come back to anyone who's ever been in trouble before. So those cases just kind of go inactive. As far as cases that do get filed with the Nueces County District Attorney's Office, usually a detective will try to call that victim and let them know, hey, I filed your case on this date. Because of caseload and manpower, that doesn't always happen, where you'll get a notification from the detective saying that, hey, I filed your case for you. In that case, you can call your detective directly and just ask the status of your case, and hopefully he or she will be able to answer that question for you.
And if I may add, if it's at the district attorney's office, you'll receive a letter along with a restitution form. And if you get your receipts of that, whatever was stolen or whatever was a theft, and send it into the district attorney's office, the prosecutor in that case will go ahead and put it in the file. So that way we have all the necessary information to get restitution back for you.
Also, let me just, restitution's always my heartache. Remember, restitution is paid by by the offender. And if you're dealing with juvenile crime, we're trying to ask 16-year-olds to pay you back, and we do that, and we're adamant about it, but know that same thing for my office too. Estimates or receipts. I don't keep my receipt from lunch, so I understand if you don't have a receipt, you could give me an estimate with just 3 different costs of the same item from 3 different places, and we'll get that demand to our ADAs at our office. But also know that if we're going with a high dollar restitution, that we do offer mediation to help out the situation since we're dealing with a juvenile.
My niece was killed by a drunk driver. I wanted to be there to support my sister, who's my niece's mother, when she had to go to court. But they kept resetting the court date, and each time I had to miss work in order to go. My sister was able to get some kind of reimbursement for the time she missed from work for the court dates. Can I get reimbursement too?
If you're not in a claimant in a crime victims compensation application, unfortunately, I can't think of any other ways to get reimbursed or get money back for having to make that trip. In some cases, in district court cases, you can do what's called a preferential setting. Then you can speak to the prosecutor about that since you're traveling from out of town. And sometimes they can work with you. Depends on what the judge makes a final decision. The prosecutor's office or the DA's office doesn't have control of that. And so that's unfortunate. But does anybody know of anything else that would cover?
No, I just think that in this case, it sounds like that would have been an aunt, and so it was a niece. So they don't meet that definition of what the statutory definition of a crime victim, according to the code. So they would not qualify for crime victims compensation like the mother of that victim did.
Are child custody issues a civil matter?
Yes.
City issues are a civil matter. They're not criminal. Before you start anything coming to the police department or anywhere else to file charges because it has to do with your custody things, please think it over. It's not a criminal matter, it's a civil matter, and you'll have to hire an attorney. If you don't have any type of custody paperwork, if you don't have anything that says that this person cannot take your child and they are the biological parent, they can do so. We do not give legal advice other than that. You'll have to seek an attorney for your civil matters when it comes to custody.
You can always make an appointment with our legal advocate at the Purple Door if you're a victim of domestic violence or sexual assault, and that advocate can help you to get to the proper channels as needed to file for custody and assistance with that.
We sometimes get questions about if a parent has a protective order, if their children are covered under that as well. It depends on if the children are listed on that protective order. If they are not, and if there is a child custody order in place, you do still have to follow it. Of course, you have to keep yourself safe, so you can call for assistance to help exchange your child or have a family member help you with it or go to a safe place to do it. But if your children are not listed on that protective order, the other parent still has rights to them.
I was told that as a victim, if I wrote a protest letter to the parole victim against a person who is in prison, the parole board would not let them out. Is that true?
Sometimes, by law, according to Section 508 of the code, the Board of Pardons and Paroles is required by law to consider any statements submitted by the victim of the offense. So if the person asking this question is the actual victim, then it will have significance to the board when they're making their decisions. Of course, it is up to the board whatever decision they make, whether or not they have input from a victim or not. It doesn't always guarantee that they're going to deny parole just because they do have input from a victim, but it helps them to better make their decision.
What rights do crime victims have?
They have a lot of rights. You want to go ahead? The 5601 through the
Yeah, Article 56.02 of the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure spells out the rights of crime victims in Texas. Although I will say that across the country, there are over 30,000 laws on the books that outline what victims' rights are. But in Texas, if you want to know what a crime victim's rights are, you can look at 56.02. In a nutshell, basically what those come down to is information. So when we say information, information about a case, the police report that they submitted, what's going to happen in court, just a general information. That information does not include evidence that's collected or where they are in the investigation necessarily, but it's about general information. It could be information about an offender's probation, information about services. So information is one of those. Another one of those is we've spoken about several times, and that's compensation or financial remedies. And that would include restitution as well as crime victims' compensation. They also have the right to notification, such as hearings, relevant hearings, if there's an appeal for conviction. What else? When an offender is eligible for parole. In the case of someone that has been sentenced to parole, any type of hearings for violations of those conditions, or if they're going to revoke a probation. So they have the right to notifications about that. As far as prison goes, they have the right to know if an offender dies while they're incarcerated, if they escape, or again, if they've been released, or when they are in the parole review process. So information, notification, financial remedies. They have the right to be heard. There are several agencies and organizations that give victims an outlet to be heard, but a big one is in court. They have the right to give an allocution in court, and that is a verbal statement to the defendant that's sitting there, and the allocution occurs after a sentence has been imposed, so that they can let them know how they feel about that defendant or what they did to their lives as a result of that crime. They can also be heard through a victim impact statement, which is also one of their rights. All victims have the right to complete a victim impact statement. And so they can be heard through the court systems, through their victim impact statement, because by law, prosecutors are required to consider the victim impact statement before they accept a plea bargain. Also, a judge is required to consider the victim impact statement before imposing this sentence. And the Board of Pardons and Paroles, as I mentioned earlier, is required to consider the victim impact statement before they make a decision as to whether or not they're going to release an offender on parole. So we did information to be heard. And victims also have the right to safety, protection. So in the court system, with the police department, they can get an emergency protective order. Did you want to talk about that, Deborah, a little bit? EPO?
Emergency protective orders, just so that we're clear on a protective order and emergency protective order. An emergency protective order is only issued if the offender has been arrested. And the reason for that is because it's an emergency. So if the offender has been arrested, he's in jail or she's in jail, we want to be able to keep that offender away from the victims or victim in enough time to be able to have this victim find safety and get out of the situation that they're in. So emergency protective orders are done only for arrest cases, as opposed to protective orders that can be done anytime from that point on. The emergency protective order is for 31 to 61 to 91 days, depending on what the judge decides and depending on the severity of the case. And in that time, we encourage victims to go get the 2-year protective order appointment with the county attorney's office, so that way they can get that process rolling. So that way everything kind of falls after the emergency protective order is done, then the appointment for everything else, so that way the protective orders can fall hopefully right behind each other. So that way this person is protected from the offender.
Also, that protection extends to the court process, where you have a court companion, you have a separate entrance, you have separation from the offender, and that would be in the court afterwards.
Okay. And so they have the right to information, notification, protection, financial remedies, the right to be heard, and there's one more.
good.
In a nutshell, that's it. I guess about it.
We're all gonna Google later.
I'm scared that if I do anything, it will get worse. What should I do?
It's going to get worse if you don't report it. So it's better to report it and let the law enforcement take care of it, and let us talk to you about a safety plan, and hopefully we can get you to where you're comfortable enough to come back. Maybe if you have to relocate, we can help you find a place, a safe place, or maybe we can refer you to the Purple Door. There's always a solution that we can try to come up with you as a victim advocate, victim assistance coordinator. We have resources that we can help you with. So don't be afraid to come in and speak to a police officer or speak to a victim advocate who can actually help you get a safety plan going for you. Everyone will need a different type of safety plan, because what works for this person may not work for you. So always keep in mind that there are people in place with the resources to help you. So do not report it.
And to reiterate, a police report does not have to be generated in order to receive services and safety.
Right.
So, however, if you want to follow through with criminal charges, a police report does need to be generated. Otherwise, if it is not on paper, it didn't happen.
And we have advocates available 24 hours, 7 days a week at the Purple Door. And you can call and speak with an advocate whenever you're ready to, or whenever you have a safe time to speak with somebody, and they'll be able to create a safety plan with you, so that way maybe getting you to the shelter would be the safest route for you.
And if you have patrol go to your home because you're making a report of the incident that's happening right then and there, even if the offender's there still or if they leave, our patrol officers are trained for a lethality assessment. So that way they can assess the level of danger that you're in, and they will get you in contact with the Purple Door hotline, so that way that you can speak to someone at that moment, and then they can determine, you can tell them, I want to go now, I want to go later, I need to get some services, whatever it is that you decide. And if you decide to go at that moment, and if you have someone to take you, great. If you don't, our patrol will take you to the Purple Door and leave you with the counselors and the residential people there for safety. But the main thing is your safety. We want you to find safety first. If you have family to go to, if you have someone, a friend, a neighbor, someone that you can trust, that you can be with to get away from the immediate danger, that's the most important thing. And then from there, you can seek services from any of us here, so we can help you get to the next level and help you find permanent safety. But safety is always the first thing for you to do.
Well, and with all that said, only you know what is best for you, and you know what your situation is. But there is no harm, and any contact that you have with any of us here is confidential.
Correct.
We're not going to disclose that to anyone, and sometimes just to talk to somebody else about it may be helpful to you, so that you can decide your next course of action and what might be best for you.
Right.
Another thing to remember is at the Purple Door, you don't actually have to be a resident with us to receive services. You can be non-residential and receive all the services that we offer. So if you're not ready to make that move, or to get out of the situation, or to want to live with family in that safety aspect, you can still receive our services.
I was a victim of an aggravated robbery. I cooperated with the police and with the DA's office as well. They caught the guy, but I never heard anything else about what happened to the charges. Who would know? Who should I contact?
You can call the DA's office and ask to speak to a victim assistance coordinator, and he or she will give you the information regarding this disposition of the case.
And if you're having a hard time contacting somebody or getting to speak to them immediately, I know that in victim services, there are so few of us victim service providers, and so many people that we need to help, that sometimes we can't get to our phones right away while we're helping victims. So another way that you might be able to look it up is Nueces County has a case lookup, where if you know the defendant's name and date of birth, you would be able to go in and find out what happened to that case.
You can even look that up, I believe, by the cause number. So if you don't necessarily know your offender's date of birth, but you know the cause number because it's gone to court, it's been settled, or you're not sure if it's been settled, you can enter it by a cause number if you're able to get that.
And you would go into the district clerk website, and look under the offender search, and they'll give you the information that you're needing at the tip of your fingers. So that would be Nueces County District Clerk's Office. District Clerk's Office, yes.
And with that said, not all counties, so if anybody is tuning in from a different county,
Right.
not all counties have that service, but we're very fortunate that Nueces County does.
How can the Victim Services Unit help crime victims and or their families?
We can help provide protective orders. We can give you the applications for them, help make the phone call with you if you don't feel comfortable doing it on your own. We can help you fill out crime victims compensation. We can get you in touch with counselors, not necessarily ours that's on staff, but we can refer you out. We can refer you to your investigator. If you don't feel comfortable talking to them alone, we can be there with you. If we're capable of doing it, we will, and if we can find you that resource, of course, that's what we're going to do. We won't have all the answers sometimes, but we do know people that do have them.
And if you're a victim of domestic violence and you recently moved and you're needing your lights turned on or electricity, we can help you with a form to send it to the electric company and get you a waiver for that deposit. And so there's a lot of services. If you're needing furniture, if you're needing to apply for food stamps and you can't fill out the application, any one of us can help you with that. You don't have to be, you don't have to have filed a police report. You could just make the phone call, and I'm sure the Purple Door will help you fill out that application. Or if you're having to maybe go to the county attorney and you have to fill out some information, you can always call one of us to help you with that. I know in my office, at the DA's office, we always welcome walk-ins. You can walk in and ask to speak to one of the victim assistance coordinators, and we will attempt to see you, and we will see you on that day at that time. But it's always best to make an appointment if you can, but if you walk in, we can help you. So yes, there's a lot of resources. There's that waiver, there's a property code that we can help you with if you have a protective order and you have to move and you have to break your lease. We can help you, give you that property code form, take it to your landlord, and you can show it along with the protective order, and you can break that lease legally. So there's a lot of resources that are out here. You don't have to face this alone, because that's what we're here for. We're here to help you with whatever your need is at that moment or in the future.
Now to kind of go back on the breaking lease thing, now there are some rules to that. You can't just come in and say, here, break your lease, you can go. There has to be, there are some rules to, like anything else, there are rules that need to go with things like that. And of course, it's too long to sit and explain those, but you call us, any one of us in any one of our offices, we can sit and explain to you what the process is and how you qualify, what qualifies and what doesn't. The housing people, the apartment people, everyone in our city, in our county, has had us at their trainings for their leasing agents, so they know what these types of things are. They know these forms, they know the orders, but there are guidelines. There's a process with that. So if you want to know what that is, and if you're in a situation like that, you may want to call us at 886-2670. Call the DA's office, the Purple Door, any one of us advocates up here, and we can go through that process with you, so that way you know specifically what it is and how you qualify.
Do I have to be a U.S. citizen to receive help?
No.
No, absolutely not.
And with that said, that's not something that we ask. It doesn't matter what language you speak. We never ask if you're a U.S. citizen. So you can avail yourself of all of the services that anybody else would, whether you're a citizen or not. And then there are some additional possible services for you, like a U visa if immigration is an issue for you.
And that also goes for CBC. They do not.
That's right.
They do not have.
And when we talk about U visas, we will get you in contact with Raices, which is our immigration attorneys. They're the agency that we use most, that will help most of our victims with services when it comes to U visa. Again, U visa information, if you're not familiar with that, that's a whole other long process. Call any one of our agencies and we can talk to you about how that works, and we can also connect you with the Raices attorneys.
Right. And there's actually Catholic Social Services also assists with immigration, And I know that legal aid as well assists with immigration. So there's several agencies in town where the person that's requesting assistance, because they're afraid, actually they're not requesting assistance because they're afraid, because they've been told that if you call the police, I will call immigration on you.
Right.
That's not necessarily true, because you have the right to speak to one of us and help and get some help and assistance to refer you out to get some information for you. Now, we're not going to do the actual U visa, but we can send you to the right place where you can actually get the U visa.
How do I find legal services to help me with my non-criminal case needs, such as housing, employment, utilities, etc.?
211 Texas. The United Way has a 211, and you can call 211, or you can go online and type in Google Texas 211, and there's just a plethora of resources that are available, and you can narrow those down and say you need food, you need shelter, you need help with electric bills, and there's any number of social services here in the Nueces County that can assist you with those basic needs.
And they actually run through the whole state. So if wherever you live or wherever county you reside, you can look at those resources that are there available for you in your county.
And with that said, there are some folks that they don't have access to a computer, or they don't know how to work the internet. And again, as advocates, I'm sure everybody else here does that. So we can help you with that, and or if you call any social service agency, they may be able to assist you with that. But I know on my part, we'll be able to help you.
Yeah,
right.
I want to plug the food bank. I know that the food bank, they have an outreach person that can help fill out the paperwork for food stamps, for Medicaid, Medicare, for chips. They do all that stuff. Our outreach person will come to any one of our agencies to sit with you. If you want to come here, if you want to go to the Purple Door, or to see Shirley at the DA's office, or to see Rose at TDCJ. Her name is Clara, and she can come to you, and she will sit with you and fill out all the paperwork that you need and keep you informed of how that works. The food bank has a lot more services than just food.
Mm-hmm.
How long will it take to process my application for CVC?
Well, it depends. You should receive a letter within 30 days, if you'll agree.
Yes.
No.
Well,
No.
yeah,
Well,
I would say
no.
about 30 days. It
30
takes about
days
2
for
weeks
you.
to receive the form stating that they have received the
That they received
application,
the
Right.
and then
information.
another
Well,
couple
that's what I
of
meant,
weeks to
yeah.
receive it's
To
a
get-
big white packet of information letting them know they've been approved or denied, things like that.
Yeah.
But it's definitely an Austin-run government agency,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
think of government time.
Yeah.
And it's just a little bit, especially when it gets to the point where you're turning in your medical billing and so forth, just allow for a little bit more time. But they should work directly with your provider, so the bills are then going directly to CVC, and you don't have those phone calls asking you where your money is or where your copay is at that time and stuff. It should alleviate some of that, but you're still probably gonna have to wait for the payment.
Yeah, it is a lengthy
It's a-
way.
It's
It's
not
a-
overnight. It's not
It's
overnight.
no,
Yeah.
we can get your
months.
claim done overnight because we can fax your claim.
Right.
But as far as them getting it and processing it and moving it forward, it's also going to be contingent upon, again, good addresses. If you have an address change, please call us so that we can notify them that there's an address change, because they've got to send you a packet that you have to look at and you have to approve and you have to sign off on some things. Every case manager, is what I've learned, every case manager in Austin is different.
Yeah.
So you're going to run into some obstacles. So my advice to you is bring that packet to any one of us.
Right.
Because it's frustrating to navigate. It's frustrating for us because we also have to go through and read it, and it upsets us when we can't get you what you need, as quick as you need it. So if you're having problems with that, bring that packet to us so we can sit down and go through the checklist together, especially if it's relocation. Because
Right.
relocation, the process is very long.
Yeah, it is very long. I was actually fortunate enough to help this person relocate to another state. And the actual crime victims comp was able to pay the apartment that she was going to be moving into when she arrived in that state. We did it over the phone. We did it over fax machine. I mean, we did it to where she was actually going to that state and actually moving into an apartment. So it can be, it can work, but you have to be willing to call one of us and let us help you.
And remember that when CBC goes to Austin, then we kind of lose contact with it. Austin takes it over. But and we're talking about how slow government works, but they are an amazing team up there for being such a small team that they will always pick up the phone if one of us does call. So if you are frustrated and you're at wit's end at that time, your first call should be to us, and then we'll try to make that call to Austin for you.
And the documents can be really confusing.
Yes,
So
indeed.
reaching out to somebody who knows how to fill them out or what you need to put in is important, because you don't want to postpone getting the papers back and then having to refile and things, not refile, but get extensions and things like that.
I was a victim of crime in another city, but I currently live in Corpus Christi, and I need help dealing with the crime. Can I get help through the Victim Services Unit locally?
Yes, I mean, we do anyway, we will help you, but we will be in touch with the other district attorneys. If they're from another city, they have their own, or their county, they will have their own district attorney's office, and we can help you fill out paperwork or applications, find out where your case is at in that county. So yes, reach out to one of us. If it's a family violence, of course, the Purple Door. And I know the district attorney's office, we normally have contact with the other district attorney to find out where your case is at that moment.
Those are all the questions we have. Is there anything else you guys want to add before we close it out?
I want to really reiterate that it's very important that a victim reaches out, even if it's just to talk to someone about their circumstances, and if they don't want to do anything, they don't have to. We will be here for them where they're at. If they're not ready to go to the Purple Door, if they're not ready to press charges, or they're thinking about it, they think there's something, they're more afraid of what's going to happen or what's going to become of them if they do report it. Call one of us. We'll talk to you and we'll listen to you and offer you some suggestions, or maybe even we even do crisis counseling. I know we all do that at some point. We'll refer you out to the right places and the right resources. The fact of the matter is that you have to be willing to reach out. Don't assume that, oh, it's so hard, nobody will be able to help me, or they won't listen to me. But we will. We'll be able to help you. You just have to reach out to us. Anybody else?
I just want to give the number to the Purple Door. We're 361-881-8888 if anybody needs any services, and we run a hotline, so whenever you're ready to reach out, we're there.
And if you're not really sure after watching this who you need to reach out to, you can reach out to any of us, and we're going to refer you to the right place.
Correct.
Anybody else?
If I strongly believe in counseling, because sometimes counseling may be that one person the counselor may be that one person you talk to change your mind. They're not going to sit there and tell you, no, you should. They're going to sit there and listen to you and then help you come to the right decision for you. And sometimes that decision is to go ahead and do something that you're afraid to do right now. I always tell ladies and gentlemen that come to speak with me, because I do hear that. I'm scared to leave, I'm scared, and I understand that. But I always tell them, you're going to be scared if you stay, or you're going to be scared if you go. Use every ounce of your being that's making you afraid to go, and use that strength and everything to get out. Because once you're out and you know that you've got everyone here to help you, then it's going to be so freeing and liberating when you know that you can sleep at night. Now, it's not easy. I'm not in your shoes, and I can never say I know what you're feeling. I'd never say that. But I can help you get to where you need to be. And again, like Shirley said, we will meet you where you are, and we will help you get through that. But the most important thing is just taking that step forward to get the help that you need, especially if you've been in a situation that's been going on for years, and it's now time, or a situation that you found something brand new that's just now happening, and you are just freaking out, and you know you need to get out. You just need to have those services and people to help you do that and jump right out of that. But wherever it is that you are, we are all here to be able to assist you with whatever it is that you need. Even if it's just a simple question about something. We answer simple questions all the time. Nothing is wrong. If you just need that one little push to go, then we're here for that also.
And keep in mind that if you do consider, or you do actually go through with charges, that there's a victim assistance coordinator at the district attorney's office who will help you, prepare you for court, accompany you to court. If you need to do an elocution when the time comes, we'll help you with that. You have to fill out a victim impact statement, we'll help you with that. So you're always with someone who can help you through the steps to the very end. Because at the district attorney's office, we're at the end of the road, kind of, you can say that.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically you're like thinking, well, how am I going to get that far? You know, I can barely call the police. I can barely give them a statement. Well, once you finish one step, it'll go to another step until you finally completed all the steps, and you'll see that it was hard. I won't say it wasn't, but at least you know that you were heard. And that's the most important thing during the situation that you're going through, is that you're being heard, and you're hopefully, you know, getting all the services that you're needing. But you have to reach out. You have to reach out to us. That I can't emphasize that enough, because if we're not reaching out to you, then please, you reach out to us. That's the best I can say it.
And on the criminal end, before it can get to the district attorney's office, again, you don't have to file a case to take advantage of the services. However, if you are able to take that first step and make a report with us, please understand that when we try to contact you to get another statement from you that you already repeated 3 times to someone else, we're not trying to re-victimize you, but there are steps that we need to follow in order to get your case to the district attorney's level. So return our phone calls, and thank you for taking that step to make that first report. That's probably the hardest step, is to get law enforcement involved. It's not a fun situation for anyone, and we want to get that process done over and quickly. So return our phone calls, even if it's to let us know that you're not ready to have it go any further. Just let us know that. We still need to hear from you and make sure that you're okay.
And another thing, since you mentioned that, it's important to report, if you have to report it to the police. Report it as soon as you can, so that way when it does go to prosecution, we have enough information to go forward with the case, because ultimately the prosecutors have to have a viable case. So it's important to keep in touch with the police, keep in touch with the district attorney's office, and answer the phone calls, because prosecutors will call you and they will ask you, come in and speak to me. We need to hear more information, or get ready for a trial if necessary. And sometimes they even can offer what's called a plea deal, where you don't have to go to trial if the person is willing to take a plea deal offer. So there's a lot of different options that we could talk about. And also I want to say is that prosecutors know that it's really hard for victims to come forward. And they understand. They've heard all the stories. But if you don't call and speak to the prosecutor, he or she can't know what you need or what would be best for your family. So you really, really have to answer those phone calls and answer those messages that the prosecutor will give you a call and request that you come in and speak to them. Because sometimes we have a case and we don't have a victim, and sometimes we can't reach you, and so then nothing happens. So if you you have a case, even if you don't want to go forward, call us and let us know, so that we can do what we need to do with the case.
Okay, guys, do y'all just give your phone numbers out if they want to contact you, and then we'll close it out?
Okay.
To reach us here at CCPD in the Family Violence Unit, whether it's a family violence issue or not, you can call 886-2670 and ask to speak with one of the victim advocates, and they will refer you to one of us, and we can help you with what you need.
At the DA's office, there's a number directly to my office. It's 888-0481. And then to my coworker, Rosa Maria, it's 888-0585.
And to the Corpus Christi Police Department Criminal Investigation Division, it's 886-2640.
The purple door is 361-881-8888.
And for
juvenile probation, the victims department, that would be the 561-6019, 6019.
And for the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Victim Services Division, locally, it's 888-5698, extension 201, or you can call our hotline at 1-800-848-4284.
For the Children's Advocacy Center, our number is going to be 361-855-9058, and you can contact us, and of course, if you needed services, if you needed a point in the right direction for a different agency for assistance, give us a call anytime.
And of course, the police non-emergency number is 361-886-2600.
Okay, guys, thanks for joining in. If you have any questions, contact one of those numbers, and you can send us direct messages at our PD Facebook. Thank you for joining in.
Thank you.
Thank you.